Nergigante, the Extinction Dragon, is the flagship monster of Monster Hunter World, the first game of the 5th generation. A ruthless, ferocious beast whose physical strength far exceeds the one of other monsters, even other dragons. He's a rather fierce adversary and forces you to adapt to his aggressive combat behavior. This is what this video is about. Nergigante forces you to mirror his fighting style if you want to get out of this fight rather unscathed. His gimmicks are the ever-growing spikes on his front legs, head, tail and wings that harden over time, if not broken early enough. So, what makes Nergigante the potentially hardest fight in the game? Let me explain. As stated before, Nergigante spikes harden after some time. First, they are not present at all. Then, they grow out in a white color, followed by gaining dark tips before turning completely black, making you bounce if attacked on this specific spot. Once some parts harden, it will make the fight exceedingly more difficult, making the soft white spikes, which are a very weak hit zone, into an area where weapons are deflected and where you want to avoid attacking in general, even with Mind's Eye, due to the poor damage you're dealing. Once most of his spikes harden, he will roar, stunning you in place if you don't negate roars with the earplug skill or a buff from a fellow hunting horn player or your palico. And then he will proceed to dive bomb you, the notorious dive bomb, which deals massive damage, if not avoided or guarded in time. Playing defensively keeps you alive longer, true, but also increases the difficulty of the fight since black spikes are more common, which enhances the damage Nergigante deals to you and also increases his defensive capabilities. It's, to say bluntly, a counter for cowardly play. Breaking spikes, which also trips Nergigante, opening a rather large opportunity to unload your strongest attacks onto him, gets more difficult in multiplayer, since not only the HP, but also the stagger limit and the resistances increase by a lot, approximately by 2.6 times. Should you struggle with him in multiplayer due to inexperienced party members, you could always try by yourself. In fact, it is nigh impossible to break the spikes in time in an uncoordinated hunt with unoptimized gear before they harden. Nergigante has a second stage, which he enters when he's breathing his last breaths. It's not rare to see him limp away shortly after he enters this stage. When he enters this stage, the camera zooms out a bit, he turns around to you slowly, flaps his wings, creating wind pressure, and roars. This stage is exceedingly more difficult. His strikes become more precise, agile, and stronger. This is the stage where people most likely die, due to being simply overwhelmed by the Extinction Dragon's flurry of attacks. Now, to the interesting part. What makes Nergigante potentially the easiest fight of the game? Nergigante's gimmick is both his strength and his weakness. If you adapt to his fighting style, that being aggressive and relentless, you will fall incredibly fast. The aforementioned white spikes are super squishy and should be the main target at all time. It's possible to infinitely chain trip Nergigante with little effort, negating every threat he may pose to you. This can be achieved by breaking the white spikes on a random body part, attacking the next body part with white spikes until they are about to break, and when Nergigante is about to stand up again, strike, and he falls once more. This may sound super situational, but it's way more common than you might think, and it only requires you to get a certain feel when the spikes are about to break. Partbreaker and Elder Seal, although I'm not 100% sure about the latter, are helpful in breaking those spikes. You don't need them though, since the spikes break relatively fast in solo play at least. Nergigante's attacks, although pretty menacing, are very easy to predict and punish. If you keep up your aggressive playstyle and keep hunting for those white spikes before they harden, he will be lying in dust in no time. Every weapon type can make short work of Nergigante. Despite his decent health pool, he is actually the elder dragon that falls the quickest. Nergigante is the same as every other monster. Might be imposing from the start, but once you figure out his moveset and the correct way to approach him, the fight will be heavily simplified. I know that there are people who can kill him in less than 2 minutes with unoptimized gear during a farming run. Watch my video! But there are also people who have been struggling with him for days. So, Nergigante, 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 Nergigantipithecus. Nergigante is upon us!